Hi all, Stuart and Sarah here. This week we moved from Tena in the Amazonian region of Ecuador, a bit to the west into the Andean region. We went through Riobamba into down south to Ingapirca. We've mostly been taking local buses, which are great because they're inexpensive and they leave very regularly. The scenery we've seen along the way has been absolutely amazing. One of the benefits of moving into the Andes region is these really dramatic viewpoints that we can see from the bus, really steep valleys and high mountains, leaving the rivers much farther behind us than we had, or farther below us than we had in the Amazon. The roads are quite precarious here, no side rails most of the time, so we were happy that we weren't the ones doing the driving. We spent 2 nights in a hotel right next to the Ingapirca ruins. So the first day we slept in and just looked around a bit, saw this local roasting cuy, admired our rustic hotel with its very old-fashioned looking door and key, and admired the ruins from the outside, whetting our appetites for the next day when we got to explore the ruins. Ingapirca means wall of the Incans in Quechua. The site, however, was originally built on in about 500 AD by the Canari people. The Incans took over and added onto the site when they arrived in 1400 AD. Here in the middle of these parts of the ruins, you can see a Canari tomb. And here is a reconstruction of what the completed structures might have looked like. Most of the stonework is Canari. You can see they used river rock with mortar in between, whereas the Incans used volcanic rock that was really finely carved to fit together with no mortar in between. A number of llama or llama graze, naturally keeping the grass short in the site. Here we can see the road that connected Ingapirca to other nearby Incan sites. And that semicircle is right above a aqueduct and some baths that were used for ritual bathing before ceremonies. The star of the site is the Temple of the Sun. This elliptical building, it's actually the only Incan Temple of the Sun that's elliptical. Here are a bunch of rocks that were reclaimed after they had been used for other buildings in the site after the conquistadors came in 1532. The Temple of the Sun sits on the edge of an elevated plateau, so it has a beautiful scenic overlook. And its elliptical nature is due to the fact that the temple that was here from the Canari time was built on an elliptical-shaped foundation stone. Here you can see that really fine stonework that the Incans are known for. On top of the Temple of the Sun, it was subdivided into 2 rooms used for ceremonial purposes. In addition to the Incan stonework, you can see the traditional trapezoidal shape to doorways in both the Temple of the Sun as well as surrounding buildings. Here are some stairs that wrap around the backside of the temple that date from the Canari time. After exploring the site, we walked around the back of the temple to look at some local sites, including this decorated llama and a viewpoint a bit back from the temple. And we were on our way to see a natural formation called the face of the Inca, which looks a bit like a human profile. Here the vegetation makes it look like he has very long lashes. After exploring the ruins and the museum at Ingapirca, we got on a bus to Cuenca. A couple days later, we did a bus trip a little bit back north to Cojitambo. Cojitambo is built in the V shape noticeable in this outcrop. The local bus dropped us off at the bottom on the right-hand side, so we had quite a long, steep climb ahead of us to get to the ruins. And here you can see us in front of the ruins. Quite small and completely unmonitored, but that was great because we got to explore around the ruins at our own pace. As with Ingapirca, there's evidence that the Incans built on top of structures from previous civilizations. This is the inside of the most complete room or building on the site. And just next to this room, you can see a mostly destroyed or mostly eroded room. One interesting feature of Coquitambo is that the Incan road Capac Nan ran along the base of the hill. There was a sign denoting this, but we couldn't find anything that we really thought of as a road. Capac Nan is a road that the Incans built to connect all of their key sites. So it primarily linked Cusco to the north of Peru, but it was also extended up north into Ecuador and south into both Chile and Bolivia. The day after Inca Pirca, we spent some time looking around Cuenca. This included trying cuy, which is guinea pig. So we went to a restaurant, Tres Estrellas, that was recommended as a great place to try cuy. We got our cuy cut into 4 parts. It came with a traditional corn, which is much different than a modern corn, and potatoes. So we tried out this cuy. Ended up being quite delicious, although lots of small bones to deal with, which made it a very labor-intensive meal. But we were not unhappy with trying it. You can see there's some of the dark meat that the cuy is made up of. We ate all of the pieces except for the organs and the head. After our cuy lunch, we went down the street a bit and went to this museum. In the museum, the signs were all in Spanish, so we spent most of our time outside in these Canari and then Incan ruins. Here again, we have a building that was reconstructed to what it may have looked like at the time. This area of the ruins is thought to have housed women that were being trained to marry off to royalty of other civilizations, as well as possible sacrifices in their annual human sacrifice. As with the Inca Pirca ruins, you can see that most of the construction is the river rocks with mortar in between, rather than the purely Incan, very finely carved and fitted stones. Also, as at Inca Pirca, you can see that at a lower level, we have this aqueduct with a ceremonial bath where they clean themselves before their religious ceremonies. Actually quite an expansive site. We wish there were more signs since there was nobody to show us around. After we finished here, we went back to our hotel, gathered our bags, went 2 stops on their tram to catch our flight off to Quito. And that is the end of this week's video, with the exception of our expenses here. Again, I think a very typical week with an average daily expense of $61. Thanks for watching. Freeze frame if you want to explore more, and please share our videos with anyone you think might be interested.